Welcome back in. Want to remind everyone to please subscribe to Game Day Sports Radio if you like our content, and be sure to like and tell your friends. All right, Mike, let's start off with Oklahoma and Nebraska. Noon Eastern kickoff, 11 a.m. local time there in Lincoln. Uh, this used to be a red circle game every year. If you were going to watch this game, started back in 1912. They played every year from 1921 to 1997. The 78 game, it was so good they had to have a rematch in the Orange Bowl. This was the original game of the century back in 1971. Now they throw that term around very loosely, but in 1971, this was the game of the century. Sadly, because of the end of the Big Eight Conference, uh, this game has only been played 9 times over the last 24 seasons, and Oklahoma holds a 7-2 advantage. Listen, we know that Scott Frost is gone at Nebraska. But man, he was the perfect fit. Hometown hero returns. So close to turning the corner with all these one-score losses, but they just couldn't get it done. But listen, Scott Frost, he was not all of Nebraska's problems, and we're going to find that out. The genesis of the Huskers' problem started with the firing of Frank Solich, who was fired after just a horrible, horrible 9-3 season. And not to belabor that point, but 5 of the 6 seasons under Solich were 9 wins or more. The only bad season that he had was a 7-7 year when they were decimated by injuries. Also, during that time, he finished in the top 10 3 of those 6 times. Never had a losing season, always went to bowl games. I mean, bowl games it wasn't even a consideration. And, we're not talking about the Tasty Fred's yogurt, tire, lube, tax prep, and hair care bowl either. We're talking about good bowls. We're talking about Rose Bowl. We're talking about Fiesta Bowl, Sugar Bowl.
BCS title game.
Exactly. That's the one that they played in the Rose Bowl. And let's discuss their bowl history since 2015. We can't because they haven't been to one. They haven't even been to Tasty Fred since 2015. How many winning seasons have they had since 2015? A grand total of 1. Bob Devaney, he's spinning in his grave so fast, it's a carnival ride. And if you don't know who Bob Devaney is, if you're under 55 or not from Nebraska, Google him, you'll find out. Tom Osborne right now, he's using all of his brain power, which he has plenty, to try to figure out, why this experiment didn't work with Scott Frost. And listen, Tom, I'm with you. I am with you. I cannot believe that Scott Frost could not reignite the Big Red Fire. But listen, somewhere behind closed doors, Frank Solich has got to be chuckling, and I say rightfully so. They've given this task to carry out the rest of the season to Mickey Joseph. Mickey Joseph's a good football coach. He's a hard worker. He's a loyal son of Nebraska, played for the Huskers on national championship teams for ours. But I don't think that he's going to be the guy. I think he's just the torchbearer. They've got to have someone that has been there and has done that. They've got to be the man, the one that can step on everybody's toes and gets away with it. Mickey can't do that, but sometimes the interim guy does work out.
Yeah, Coach, I was one of those that thought Scott Frost. If not Scott Frost, then who? And occasionally these top tier teams, not often, but occasionally they will get their guy via interim. Remember, the fans, the media, they all laughed and chuckled when Dabo was handed the reins at Clemson. And that we see how that worked out. Time will tell in Lincoln, but this particular game, the Sooners opened 16. They were quickly bet down to 11. The total was bet from 68 to 66. It has the feel of a close contest. And look, you mentioned one loss, Nebraska. All their losses the last few years, and it's a lot, especially by Nebraska standards. They're 4-6 straight up their last 10 home games, all 6 losses by 1 score. Their last 19 games, regular season games, because as you mentioned, they're not playing bowl games, 6-13. That's woeful by Husker standards. All 13 losses by one score or, by 8 or less, one score. I'm going to play Nebraska here to keep it close.
Listen, I think that Nebraska Memorial Stadium is going to be rocking. Nebraska is going to come out. It's going to be an emotional high for those guys because Frost was their guy too. He was their guy. I don't know if you gave the players the choice that they would have said, let's get rid of Coach Frost. Coaching decisions are made for a lot of different reasons at a lot higher levels than the players. But anyway, long story short, I think once the emotional high fades off, I think Oklahoma takes control and takes care of business.
Yeah, and I'm a little concerned about Nebraska because all my colleagues, handicappers, analysts, other people in major media, they kind of agree with me. That's usually doesn't work out too great. Also, we're going to preview a couple of other games. So again, you mentioned it at the top. If you guys will subscribe and like our content, we certainly will appreciate it.